Welcome you all to another edition of Around the Rim. I'm your host, the Dudster, Nestor Dudley, alongside with old friend of Around the Rim, Gary Christenson, City Councilor, Ward 1. Gary, welcome to another season of
Good to
Around
be
the Rim.
back.
Good to be back.
Seems like yesterday.
It just seemed like yesterday, and I got to tell you, a lot of kudos to Gary Christenson because I was late getting out my emails this year to try to schedule Gary for his annual spot coming down, commentates the games, myself and Brad with Benton. But since we have a couple of new voices in the MNBL, both Jim Foley and Elijah Feldman, who's going to be up here in the coming weeks, I was trying to think, well, how am I going to schedule all three of these guys? I know Gary don't know these guys don't know Gary. How I'm supposed to do all this? Me and Brad will be sitting down saying how we're going to do this. But then Gary just showed up. Gary just showed, you know what, R.A.? Because I didn't turn my button on. Everything else going wrong. Everything else going. This is live television.
How does that sound now back there? Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm going to do this all over again.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, yeah, you know, technology is a wonderful thing when you turn it on. Anyways, as I said before, there are 2 minutes of silence that you got because silence
we still heard you.
You still heard me? Yeah, because I was gifted with that big old mouth.
Yeah,
but in any case, Gary took it upon himself to meet me down at the Ferryway, and it was beautiful. It saved me an email, saved me the aggravation and time, and Brad to try to schedule Gary, and Gary just made it happen. So I appreciate the efforts. I appreciate that. You know,
every year we're getting better and better.
Yes.
You know, so
except when I don't turn on my own mic.
No, I mean it's something. That I didn't even feel like. I just had to be there, and I just showed up and. You know, that's how I think it'll be from here on in.
Oh, beautiful. Save me future emails, I guess.
Although, in hindsight, I don't know if I should have showed up there after watching my...
Well, you know what, Gary? I didn't get a chance to look through the record books. As this league is run on contributions and fundraisers and things like that and team sponsorships. So we have 8 teams in the league, and there are various team sponsors that we have their names on the back of their jerseys. So for the past several seasons, Gary Christenson, through his kind and generous contribution, has been a team sponsor, and the team that he's always been getting is the Celtics. It's not a choice that Gary makes; it's a choice that Commissioner Kevin Johnson just makes. So, for the past several seasons, Gary Christenson has been sponsoring one of the sponsors for the Celtics. And every year when Gary shows up and the Celtics play, the Celtics come home with an L. Well, this year the Celtics were blemished. They were a portrait of a perfect season. Certainly, the Celtics was going to win this game. But Gary, New Year, same thing. The Celtics got their first blemish, and we're beginning to think that you might be a jinx to that franchise.
I'll tell you, I never thought a game would affect me. That game affected me. I was down the next game and a half before I got my zeal back. It was, and what surprised me the most is third quarter. I think the Celtics were up 20.
The Celtics were up 20. I mean, Coach Evans Revere, Magic Man, he always gets accused of running up the score, and folks do not understand why. If you're on the receiving end of getting your booty waxed as a coach, you're not digging it, and the only thing that you can hope for is that either this season or the coming season that you have a squad that's powerful enough to do that back. But there is a method to his madness, because he has told me plenty of time that he just doesn't have the confidence that his players would hold the lead. And that's why he runs up the score.
Right. Now, I understand that, but I thought the difference for the Sixers was that center.
Okay. Well, you know what? Since everything else has gone wrong, keep my mic up. Apparently, we are not live, so I'm just going to go right into the studio and turn us up live. I tried to play it slickly, but folks were... So we're just going to go live. We're going to go...
Okay.
0...
You sure?
0126, enter. 0126, enter. You know what, Gary? I did not come to work today because my son Lester Dudley was sick. So I wasn't able to come to work today. Hence, I wasn't able to get a black fact. We started the show. I didn't turn my mic on. The opening music, Basketball by Curtis Blow, has become missing, and we just wasn't on television. So,
You're not
so Waldo, can anything else possibly happen to me tonight?
Well, you're not going to tell me next I'm getting punked, are you?
No, you're not going to get punked. No. I make no guarantees about you not being on the MNBL web, but you're definitely not going to be punked. That's MTV, not MATV. But back here in the studios of Around the Rim, yes, we were talking about the Celtics were undefeated. They lost, unfortunately, with you in the house, but Coach Magic had told me that the reason why that and it's not that he's running up the score per se, it appears that way, but he likes to have that nice, comfortable lead because he realizes anything can happen in this MNBL. And you've seen yourself that all because you have a 20 to 25 point lead doesn't necessarily mean that that lead is secure until you get to the last 2 minutes of the game.
Right, and I thought the thing that stood out to me that first game, it was like this storybook where the center got hurt. I think at one point he was limping around. He came out.
For the Sixers, Contreras.
Yeah, came back in and really led the team to victory. And so I thought in that end it was good and it was typical for the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League to see a storyline like that. But I do have to say once again, once the Celtics lost, I was pretty down the next couple of games. So.
Well, you go down the rosters of the Sixers, Gary. Eric Ribeiro, Matty Manuel, Josh McCown, Sean Hickey, Sammy Jean, Ricky Douglas, Everson Blank, John McMillan, Jonathan Lamb, and Olgens Cherador, who was last week's recipient of Player of the Week. And he just showed that true grit, as you mentioned, turned that ankle, probably sat out for a couple of minutes, but realized that was a big game. The Sixers needed that game, too, because the Sixers were in 5th place. They were trying to get into madness contention. So the Sixers had everything to win that game.
Right. And yeah, the other thing, they were at 5-5 coming in?
The Sixers were 4-4 coming into the game.
4-4 coming in, okay, yep. And I forget, do you have his stat line, that center? We thought he was close to 15, 20 boards. But just a real at the end.
We don't have the actual stats as far as that game goes. I mean, you know me, I always have my official, unofficial stats for the season, but I do not have any stats for that game. But he was huge. I mean, he's just been a monster on the boards this year for that team.
Yeah, it just seemed like in the fourth quarter there, they were just giving him the ball and letting him do the work. And, I still think, after all said and done, that the Celtics will be right there at the end. They got a couple great players, including, I think, one is Skane.
Yeah, Bobby Skane. That's a good segue to the Celtics roster. David Bassari, Michael Liu, John O'Leary, Drew Weiner, Bobby Skane, Donald DeRocha, Richard Dwyer, Marvin Mothersill, and Jason Chen. That team is a team that both myself and Brad Worth-Benton predicted that was going to go to the big dance along with the Kings. I predicted that the Celtics were going to take it. Brad predicted that the Kings were going to take it. But in any case, this team is definitely going to the madness. But before I give Gary a chance to answer that, I don't know you hear that music, Gary, but I hear that music, and that signifies that you are caught up in the MNBL web. You know what this segment is. You've been up here before. I see you smiling, Gary. You're not going to be punked. You're just on the web.
All right, thankfully.
What this segment is that I have up until 3 minutes to ask my guests anything, and it may or may not have to do with the MNBL. And quite simply put, Gary, since you commentated the games with both Jim Foley and Elijah Feldman last weekend, we didn't have a chance to have our annual city government talks. So let me ask you, where do you think, a year later, do you have any ideas or plans where you think that the new city hall should be located? Well, if I ain't going to talk about the location of the new city hall, but we only have like 2 minutes to do so.
Well, I think right now all of that has been overshadowed by the storm. I think obviously we've been fielding a lot of calls about sand and snow removal, but I think once we get past that, I think the focus will be on where City Hall should relocate. The two destinations that are still discussed a lot is the Brunelli Building on Salem Street.
Okay.
And then the former YMCA here in Pleasant.
Because I know the former YMCA on Pleasant was a discussion last year, or it certainly came up in some folks' mind. I know it came up in my mind last year.
And I think a number of the councils as well, because of its location downtown. We own the building, and I think they think that might be a suitable place. So we have two options, but I think a lot hinders on Mayor Howard's proposal on how to restructure the high school in terms of renovating and building and adding on. So depending on what the reimbursement is from the state, I think will dictate on where exactly we do relocate, if at all, City Hall.
Gary Christenson, you are officially out of the web.
No,
you see, now that was...
Yeah, I'm just glad. My fear, Mark Lawhorn and some of my friends at work were thinking that you were going to ask me to do a woo of the week. So
No. I remember last year that they said specifically never to let you do the woo again.
Right. And the reason they asked you that is because I've been showing it at staff meetings and stuff like that. So I've gained quite a reputation for that.
Well, now they can show this at the staff meeting instead. Back in the studios of ATR Round the Rim, I'm your host, the Nestor Dudley, along with Gary Christenson, City Councilor, Ward 1. So, Gary, that was the first game, Celtics-Sixers, where unfortunately for the Celtics, and I can say your Celtics because you do sponsor that team, unfortunately the Celtics lost that game. Now, the second game was going through...
How much do you think, by the way, in the booth with the two volunteers from Emerson, which did a great job? They were excellent. Very good job. How much do you think it was because Millsap was missing?
Mothersill?
Yeah.
Mothersill, Millsap.
Yeah, Mothersill, right.
Marvin Millsap. You hear that? Waldo's getting a good chuckle out of that.
That's what he should be coughing up here.
Millsap. Mothersill is their third weapon. He averages around 10 to 12 points a game. Skane and Weiner are certainly their go-to guys. Right. But I think, you're missing Mothersill's 10 to 12 points a game. Add those 10 to 12 points a game, a 20 to 25 point lead turns into a 30 to 35 point lead, and it's very hard for a team to come back from a 30 to 35 point lead. So I'm very certain that with the absence of Marvin Mothersill, that certainly was a contributing factor, but we're certainly not going to sit up here and take anything away from the Sixers. It's certainly not their fault that Mothersill didn't show up. Right. If anybody's fault, Mothersill's fault, or maybe Coach Madden's fault for not making sure that Mothersill held bus fare or something like that there. But Waldo, am I hearing the music for the Rollins, or are we going to the Rollins now, Waldo? Okay, well, let's go into the Rollins now, and remember, Go Ref Go, we're going to keep the audio up at the first Rollin.
I got you.
Okay, so let's go on to the Rollins.
Welcome back to MNBL basketball. We're at the half. Celtics on top, 31-19 over the Sixers. Joined by Jim Foley and Gary Christensen. Thanks for joining us. He's the city councilor here in Malden, Ward 1 in his second term. And Gary, can you tell us about any one, maybe two hot-button issues going on in town right now?
Well, one of the biggest issue remains is the relocation of our city hall. We've been trying to figure out where a better location might be in the city, so we continue to work on that matter. And then the other matter is we continue to thank the gods above for no snow. It's made for a great winter.
There you go. It's been a nice winter thus far. And Jim, taking a look at this ball game, the Sixers trying to hang in there. They're down by double digits, but they're still in this ball game. And their leader, Olvin Sherador, we saw him go down with an injury in the first half. He tried to play through it, but in the second half, is he going to continue to put up numbers while trying to nurse that ankle of his?
Well, what Sherador needs to do is play smart. He's a tough player, and I love that about him. But sometimes you can only take it so far. Like, there was one play where he was on the ground, and he was calling for the ball as he was gotten up, and Gene passed it behind him because Sherador wasn't ready for it. I appreciate Sherador playing tough. Keep him in the game for a little bit, but don't make him be the playmaker. Distribute the ball, let the rest of the team play. You have a good team. They can play, and they can take this team to a victory.
All right, Jim, we'll be back with second half action right after this from the Ferryway School in Malden. The Celtics up 31-19.
Raise the audio.
And our special guest,
City Councilor Gary Christensen.
Councilor Gary Christensen. Gary, who wanted it more this game?
I thought both teams played extremely well, but when you go to overtime, anything can happen.
That's right, and that's what happened here, but the entire overtime was just completely taken over by the Sixers alliance.
It looked like the Sixers came out of overtime. They were the team that wanted it most. We saw most of this game. Neither team took control of the energy of this contest. It was finally in overtime that we saw the Sixers. We saw Sherador, who dropped 28 points tonight. An incredible showing for him. And after he injured his ankle in the first half, he recovered from that, came out. And I mean, this guy has a lot of heart. And the Sixers team, this is what they needed. Finally over 500 now, 5-4, and they're right back in that playoff hunt. So just an amazing ball game.
It really was. Unbelievable. Can't wait to see the awards from Nestor Dudley on Around the Rim. Plenty to give out here.
Forward to that. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming along and joining us.
Yep.
And Elias Feldman, Gary Christensen, Jim Foley. See you next time.
Celtics were victorious, Sixers were victorious and took an extra frame, 70-58. Drew Weiner led the Celtics with 20 points. Oljan Cheridor led all scores with 34 points, and they gave their Celtics the first loss. The next game, the Kings, the Bullets, Kings 48, Bullets 20. Kings 40, Bullets 28. Contreras, high man with the Bullets, 11 points. Suter led all scores with 13 points. Third game, Lakers, Pistons. Lakers 11 points better than the Pistons, 41-30. Dion Bailey, high man for the Pistons, 9 points. Johnny Jean led all scores with 14 points. The Lakers improved to gain their second victory. Sunday's game, Hawks, Kings. Kings 62, Hawks 41. Nolan, high man for the Hawks, 16 points. Danny Suter led all scores with 24 points. The Kings on top of the league right now, 9-1. Second game, Sonics, Celtics. Celtics back on the winning track, 70-48. Jake Halloran, high man for the Sonics, 12 points. Bobby Skane led all scores with 22 points. Celtics now in second place with their first blemish. Third and final game, the Sixers, 1 point better than the Pistons, 52-51. Oljan Cheridor, high man for the Sixers, 17 points. Kevin Barry led all scores with 20 points. The Sixers with a weekend sweep, and the Pistons got swept this weekend. Player of the week, Danny Suter of the Kings. Coach of the week, Cliff Williams of the Sixers, who solved the riddle of Magic's puzzle. Team of the week, you got to stay here with the Sixers. They gave the Celtics their first blemish. And Woo of the week goes to Gary Christenson. 1-1. Nice. Too bad we didn't have a reaction shot for that. But Gary Christenson, as I said at the onslaught, you did not wait for my traditional email. You took that initiative. You really want to talk about the relocation of City Hall, but we still got to get that in. So, Gary Christenson, I'm going to do what your constituents do not want you to do. I'm going to give you a woo. Woo! Now on to the official standings. Remember, I don't care who you talk to. If it doesn't match this, it just ain't official. Well, with the exception of one thing, the Kings would love to be 9-0, but then I'm sure Higgins and Rogers will take that. But they're actually 9-1. Kings 9-1 on top of the league, followed by the Celtics, Sonics, Sixers, Pistons, Lakers on top of the Bullets and Hawks. And that's how it goes. Now on to Go Ref Go's favorite category. Wow, now, this is probably the only unblemished thing that's probably going to be on the screen tonight, is the Dirty Dozen. And right now, the dirtiest dozen of them all, Go Ref Go, is still Mr. Washington representing the Pistons, followed by Cheridor, Rufo, Halvin, Israel, Chase, Weiner, Sands, Philippe, Bunch, McMillan, and Sherry. Games this week, first game Sonics Sixers, second game Celtics Hawks, third games Kings Pistons, and in that first game, third place is on the line betwixt the Sonics and the Sixers. Sunday, first game Hawks Pistons, second game Sonics Bullets, third game Celtics Lakers, and if in Mighty Joe Young comes home with the loss, he's fired. Around the Rim, when you could, every Thursday live, 7:30 p.m., when it actually goes off live. Replays the following Friday night at 11 in the p.m., that Saturday morning, 9 in the a.m., and replays the following Tuesday evening, Channel 3, 4 in the p.m. When to watch them, each Monday through Wednesday, 3 o'clock. And the game of the week is every Friday night, and I did not change the game of the week this past week, so I basically have no clue what the game of the week is, but it's not the Lakers and the Pistons. When to read them, the Mall Evening News, and if you're too cheap to spend the 50 cents, yes, Gary did say 50 cents, you can read about it in mmbl19.tripod.com or the official online home of Around the Rim, that's atrlive.blogspot.com. And of course, Gary, that was easy for me to say. Once again, I have to apologize that I do not have a current or a new Black History Moment fact, but my son, Lester Dudley, was sick, and I stayed home with him all day today, so I couldn't, Gary, it takes me 3 days to put this show together, and obviously to have a chance to fine-tune and to double-check, or what some people might call like the idiot check, to double-check and triple-check. I didn't have any time to double-check and triple-check those facts. That's why some of these faux pas have happened tonight. So some of these faux pas are my fault, but some aren't. It's not my crew's fault either, but some faux pas just ain't my fault. Anyways, back in the studios here, Gary. The second game was the Kings and Bullets, and for the past couple of seasons, when you've come to see the Kings, they had lean teams as far as they've had the talent, but couldn't capitalize on the game per se. But the game that you saw this past week against a Bullet team, the defending Neighborhood League champions, the Kings basically were not in any danger at any point in that game to lose.
Yeah, it was much different than the first game. There was a period where you thought it could evolve into a closer match, but the Kings seemed quick And I thought they were able to control throughout.
Yes, this Kings team finished in third place last year, Gary. They went to the Big Dance. They lost to the Bullets, so it might have been like a little revenge factor, because this is the first time that they played this season. The first meeting against these two teams, the first weekend of this season, unfortunately, the Bullets had a forfeit. It was like the first forfeit in like 20 years. They only had 4. You cannot start the game with less than 5. So, unfortunately, the game was not played. But they did play it this time, and the returning Kings, you got to think that they had in the back of their mind, yeah, this is the team that beat us in the Big Dance. It might not be the same exact team, but they are wearing bullets across their chest, and it was probably nice to have that victory over them.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, not all's lost for the Bullets. I thought they had 2 decent rookies, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes,
they started.
Yes, they have Jeremy McCormick is not a rookie. Corey Spencer.
Right. He looked good.
Yeah, Corey
He's got the
Spencer.
tools.
He's one of the 3 front runners, in my opinion, that is a candidate for Rookie of the Year. Would be Corey Spencer. But yes, what Steve Wright did, head coach, is that he realized that he was rebuilding this year. So he drafted young, and his first pick was Corey Spencer, who went in the first round, obviously, if that's your first pick. And nice pick. I mean, it was a very nice surprise and a breath of fresh air if you're Steve Wright.
I was impressed. The thing that I liked about Spencer, too, that I noticed is he didn't quit. Fourth quarter, he was playing like it was the first, even though the game was sort of out of reach. So thought that was good to see. And then there was one other one. I forget the player's name.
Contreras.
Contreras. I thought he had some good moves as well. So I could see what Coach Wright was doing, and as you did, that might as well use the opportunity to go young and try and build up.
Yes, when you win 2 titles in 3 years and becoming one dynasty, there's certainly no shame to not make the madness this year. So why not just use this season as a rebuilding season, and then you can build on the next 2 seasons on the back of these couple of sophomores.
Right.
You're looking pretty good if you're Steve Wright and the rest of the Bullets. And then, Gary, the third game was some folks could consider an upset. The Lakers versus the Pistons. The Pistons needed both games this weekend to get into madness contention. Both the Pistons and the Sixers coming into this past weekend was 4-4. And when the Sixers upset the Celtics, I had a chance to talk to Coach Paul Conrad of the Pistons and a couple of Pistons players, and they just kept on saying, Gary, that it was a must-win Sunday against the Sixers. They didn't even give the Lakers a consideration, and when you have that in your mind, Gary, chances are 9 out of 10 times you're going to lose, and lose the Pistons did against the Lakers.
Yeah, and that's for sure. And I thought it all started and ended with their star player, Barry.
Kevin Barry,
yeah,
yes.
He seemed very upset with the flow of the game, and I think the way the touches were happening. And so I felt like when he wasn't in sync, the rest of the team wasn't in sync. But on the conversely with the Lakers, the fastest team by far I saw that day on the court.
Oh,
they
yes.
were everywhere.
Oh, they were. They had the three guards there. They had Deshaun Bunch, and they had the twins, Johnny and John Jean, and the 3 of them, Gary, what's nice about them and what Beanie Amos is appreciating about them is that these boys have learned to hit their layups.
They fly. They were everywhere. I mean, you'd be looking to the right and the left.
Yeah.
But we all thought in the booth that one of the critical moments of the game was, I think, when you came out second half and I think changed your center and you brought in the tall man.
Yeah.
And he sparked the team, it seemed.
Yeah, I came out and I talked to both Coach Conrad and the coach Beanie Amos, and I told Coach Conrad, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have to calm down Kevin Barry, because Kevin Barry is your man in the absence of Craig Garner. And then I went up to Beanie Amos and I asked him, I said, how come your big man Carlston Hugler is not in the game? Right. So Beanie told me it was more of a disciplinary reason. I said, okay, well, in my opinion, this is your team, you coach it the way you want, but in my opinion, I think he's been disciplined. If you want to win this game, you should start him out in the second half. And what Beanie did, he took my advice for one of the few times ever, took my advice, put Cal on the floor, and was able to obtain a lead coming off the overtime. The halftime. Lakers were down by 4, but by the end of the third, the Lakers were up by 6.
Real spark, I thought. He made some great rebounds and scored a couple nice baskets, and we felt that was a moment when the game turned for the Lakers. My favorite moment is when everybody thought that Beanie Amos was going to lose control. It actually happened towards the end of the first, where it was the Lakers were on the line, where everything is free. And the rules, as I understand it, Gary, is that the
offense, when the person is shooting, when the offensive team is shooting, they can only have 2 other people in the box, whereas the defending team can have 4 people in the box. Now, what happened a week ago when the Lakers were playing the Sonics had 3 people in the box. And Beanie was complaining to the refs, they only supposed to have 2. The refs told Beanie at that time that if the defending team elects not to take that spot, then the offensive team can take that spot. That's not the way I understood the rule, Gary. That's certainly not the way B.D. Amos understood the rule. So the following week, when one of the same referees, Waldo, it's a true story, one of the same referees was at that game the following week, and Beanie tried to do that. Head coach Costa said, Beanie, that's not the rules. You know what the rules are. The rule says that it's only 3 offensive guys in the box. And Beanie Amos was saying, you know what, I'm tired of being on the crap end of these things. Whatever the rule is, you tell me what the rule is. At this point, I don't care what the rule is. You just be consistent. And if you're telling me that this is the rule, since you're the head ref, make sure when you call these other refs, you let them know what the rule is, because Beanie has had it.
Well, what you probably really needed was the referee from the first game, the female referee,
Yes.
which I'd never seen before. She did a fantastic job in overtime.
I thought she did too. The first time ever in these 22 years that there has been a female referee in the Mall Neighborhood Basketball League.
Yeah, and she did a fantastic job. So who knows? Maybe start having her every game now. She would have straightened that out.
Well, she appears to have known the rules. But right now, my man Waldo's telling me that I got 3 minutes, which I thought he wanted me to wrap it up. Now he's telling me to stretch. But in any case,
That's because Waldo doesn't listen to direction.
Waldo and Go Ref Go, they have this love-hate relationship. They love to hate each other. But in any case, any words that you would like to say?
No, just as usual. I mean, it's like clockwork that I say it every year, but I mean it when I say it, and that is how proud we are to have you in the city and how much you mean to us and the entire city overall. So just want to make sure I reiterate that every year to you in the league.
Oh, well, thank you very much. The Malden Neighborhood Basketball League, Gary, 22 years old.
Unbelievable. And every year it gets better. I mean, even this year, we had the differences, I think, at the school with the school council. But I know my school committee members, Peg Crow and Greg Lucy, did a site visit last week, and it seems like you're trying to work with the school council to make sure the doors are monitored. I did a little site visit last Saturday, and the doors were monitored by the coaches. So, I think it's just a test to what, you trying to do the right thing for the community and trying to work with us to make it happen for the kids. So.
And that's what it is. I mean, we are all one big family in this community that we call the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League. Now, Waldo, you gave me 3 minutes, but you gave me the 3-minute cue 3 minutes ago. 1 minute, so I'm officially wrapping this up because, Waldo, if I keep going, there's going to be another blemish on my part. But in any case, I just want to thank you again, Gary, for coming back here.
Pleasure.
You know you always have a seat here next to me.
I appreciate it.
And until then, I just want to say, and you don't want to do this either.
No.
Buenas noches, hooches, cooches. I came in peace. I leave with love. This is for the red, the black, and the green. And I'll be seeing you at the games.